Here we are yet again with another one of these what in the world is wrong with Austin FC when they should be doing well. 2025 has been a very interesting season so far. Um, a very interesting start to the season, and then it's trailed off in the past couple of months, but also somehow been slightly better in the last couple of months, and then doing well in cup games, surprisingly, but sacrificing that with the league. I really don't know what's going on. I think that we'll start today with what so far the 2025 season has looked like. Currently, as of recording this, Austin FC is 9th place in the West, 20th overall in Supporter Shield. Austin FC has played 15 games so far, has 19 points in those games. Not great. 5 wins, 4 draws, 6 losses in those 15 games. In those 15 games, Austin FC has a -7 goal differential, only scoring 10 goals and conceding 17. Not great. Brandon Vasquez has scored 4. He is Austin FC's top goal scorer. 6 other players have a single goal. Also in the attack, Owen Wolf with the leading assists for the team with 3. And the next thing that I'm just really going to briefly bring up is the disciplinary problems. Austin's been relatively good in this department this year. Only one player at this point, almost halfway into the season, is on the brink of a suspension for disciplinary problems. That is Bobovic with 1 card away. 5 players are 2 cards away. Vasquez, Danny Pereira, Elias Sanchez, Jader Obriant, and John Gallagher are the 5 that are 2 cards away, 2 cards away from that. So Austin's been relatively good in that so far. Have not had a player been suspended due to disciplinary problems so far. The other thing that I want to kind of get out of the way before we dive into the main topics of this is this weird former player like pedestal that some people in the community are putting former Austin FC players on. I don't know if that sentence made sense, but it's this weird thing that like every former Austin FC player is a great player and is a top tier player, but Austin FC or Josh Wolf or X or Y or Z was the problem and why they couldn't do that in Austin. The most recent one, which I feel like is kind of the biggest one that we've seen a lot since he left, is Sebastian Driussi, obviously. And I think it's due to the fact of his MVP level season. Arguably, I think he should have still, to this day, should have won the MVP for that 2022 season. But whatever. Hani Mukhtar, great. But moving on, whatever. I tweets like this are what I'm kind of talking about. I don't understand why people care so much about what players do when they leave Austin. Sorry about that. Whoops. When they leave Austin, we all understand that Josh Wolf and what this organization was for the first 4 years was bad. We all get it. Players didn't live up to what they should have. Coaching didn't live up to it. I mean, arguably coaching did live up to it. Either way. The front end kind of made some issues. The players kind of made some issues. Whatever. We move on. It isn't that big of a deal. Why are we still in 2025 putting these former players like Sebastian Driussi, who burnt the bridge? He checked out after that 2022, maybe halfway through that 2023 season. He checked out. He didn't care about Austin. He never did, I don't think. The first main point that I want to talk about is the elephant in the room, the new head coach, Nico Estevez. Do I think that Nico Estevez is a better coach than Josh Wolf? Yes. Do I think he's drastically a better coach than Josh Wolf? No. Overall, I think that he, at least so far in these first couple of months of the season, has shown that he is slightly better of an understanding of players and player communication and communication with media, communication with outlets, all that kind of stuff. And it seems like he understands in a way how to deal with pressure. What I mean by that of like, we haven't seen, at least I haven't, please, if I'm wrong, let me know down below, that he hasn't necessarily put blame on specific players more than just, hey, our attack could have done better and scored more goals. You know, a very generalization. He hasn't put direct blame on certain players. I remember multiple times last year, Romagna got blame, Ascante got blame, Diego Fagundes got blame, Ring got blame. Like, then there was like direct, like, this person is this person didn't deserve this or whatever. Nico doesn't do that, and I would be very, very surprised if he does that at all through his time in Austin. So I think that's a good thing. But that's also the bare minimum of what a coach should do. Do I think that he is implementing a better tactical play style and better tactics into this club? Kind of, maybe. Similarities with what these new tactics are, if you want to call it whatever, the new tactical decision that Austin's doing now. The similarities are they're kind of the same crossing, slow build up, horseshoe of sadness to a point, kind of getting in that same rhythm every once in a while, a little bit too frequently. But it's just that same like recycling the ball, cross goes in, kind of bounces around, gets out, comes back to the midfield, goes back to Heinzike or Svatok or Gallagher or Biro or Elias Sanchez is back there. That goes back to Suver. Back to the midfield, back to one of the wingers, then bounce around, come back, go back out, go back. The same, just repetitive, just pointless. Nothing is being accomplished with it. But with that is there have been some glimpses, very rarely, of this kind of quick, tactical, up the middle, route one, kind of just counterattack. I mean, I don't really know what like counterattack play of just quick, snappy, reactive, not really reactive to things, but just like proactive at making a chance for yourself. The last question that I want to kind of answer and ask about Nico Steves specifically is, should Nico Steves have been hired when he was, as soon as he was, with the release of Josh Wolf? Absolutely not. Never in a million years do I want a coach to be hired that quickly unless it's a top tier manager. I don't think it made sense to hire Nico when he did. And I think that, at least personally, I would be a little bit more open to the issues that Nico has with these new tactics if I had seen some drive or some just putting out there that Austin's interested in interviewing more people. Because to me, it seems like, oh, they're like, we're interviewing a lot of people. We got names you wouldn't believe, as Roto said, interviewing for this coaching decision. We're gonna go with the guy from the backyard up there who coached the former rival or was a former coach of a rival, Nico Steves, that guy who kind of plays the same as the previous coach that we just kicked out. Why? What's the point? So, and that's kind of why I initially came into the season with a lot more hesitation on Nico Steves than I think I would have given a different head coach had he been hired. Now moving on to some individuals that actually impact the game itself. The new players that have been brought in. So new players, what I'm considering is anybody that has not been a part of an Austin FC season, a full Austin FC season before. This is mainly people that have been brought in the winter transfer season. It's exactly what you think it is. Brandon Vasquez, we'll start with. My first point with Brandon Vasquez, and I want you guys to let me know down below if you disagree with me. He has been the only actual striker that Austin FC has ever had. And please, if you think I'm wrong, let me know who down below. Let me know who has been a better striker and an actual striker for Austin FC in the past 4.5 years. Oh, wait. I'll give you a second to go down and let me know. No? Got it. Cool. That's what I thought. I mean, the only argument that I could see is Moussa Jite, and the argument that I could see was 10 minutes. That was it. One night, middle of the week, I think it was middle of the week, a 10-minute showing from a striker who's then gone back over to Europe or into France. And good. Cool. I'm glad that he's with his family and that he got that sorted out. Artist wasn't it? I was really hoping he was, but he wasn't. Oh well, it is what it is. But going back to Brandon Vasquez, I feel like this season for him has very much been that like Clark Kent versus Superman, as he is. Of the start of the year, he really struggled to make a name for himself, I think. And like the name for himself was there, but to actually contribute and actually to create that progress and make that case for him, like he arguably said that he had, of getting back into the national team. The other thing, I think it's very nice that we actually have now a target guy up front, and it's not necessarily kind of jolting between like one coming back. I mean, Rubio kind of did it too. Maxi did it, but it just, I don't know. I don't feel like they actually had a presence up the field in the middle like Brandon Vasquez does. I think my only issue with him earlier in that season was not staying up there and being that target man, is kind of dropping back a little bit too far And I think that might be due to the fact that he felt like he wasn't really getting um, connection between that midfield and the forwards. It could have also just been the fact of, hey, this is how Nico wants to play, is just sit back, 10 guys, 11 guys behind the ball, and then counter, but then also not counter is slow build up from having everybody back takes 13 years to get players into an attacking position. I think Brandon Vasquez is a very, very good player and fits with what Austin FC should be doing. The next player that I want to talk about was, in my opinion, from the start of the season, and I'm admitting to this, I'm wrong. Take it. In my opinion, from the beginning of the season, was the guy that I thought was the best of the three forwards that Austin FC signed. Mesmir Tozuni. I was very, very happy with how Tozuni looked those first couple of games. Fair enough, he didn't score a goal. Whatever, we'll move on. But the effort and that drive and the intentions that he played with were great. And I hadn't really seen Austin have a player like that, say from Driussi from 22 a few times. But like, he always felt like he was about to score. You know, he was always on that precipice of just the cusp of almost getting there. And I think once he does kind of start putting him in the back of the net consistently, he will skyrocket to fans. I mean, yes, I know he's already almost 30, he's just over 30, I believe. In the MLS, I think he'll thrive at least for a couple of seasons if he can just kind of get the last notch up there. But like, the biggest concern I had with him from the first 2 months of the season, 3 months of the season, it's just his inability to convert. But I mean, that was the whole front line. Like I said, the front line has 6 goals. Austin paid $30 million for guys to contribute 6 goals. Oh well. And I'm curious. I don't know personally. It's I have arguments for both of them. I don't know if he's necessarily better as a second striker with Brandon Vasquez in a front two in like a 4-4-2 or something, or a variation of that, or if he's better supported on the wing, or could he possibly play as an actual 10 and drop into that midfield role, and whether that be one of the 3 midfielders or a different formation or whatever, and be the connective tissue that I feel like Austin is lacking. I think there's good arguments for all of those options. I just don't know which is, at least in my head, which one fits him the best. Now, moving on to the last one, I don't think we really need to hesitate on who this is. I think that he's climbed up to be arguably the second best forward that Austin has. I don't think it's really arguably. Well, I guess arguably that he could be better, but then Brandon Vasquez, who I think is the top one right now. My main concern with Osman Bukhari has been his inability to end his dribble, right? In the sense of I feel like he always has 2 or 3 extra dribbles that lose the ball in some way, whether it gets caught under his feet, he dribbles into a player, he dribbles into space, he puts one ball a little bit too long and can't get there, or something like that. I just feel like he dribbles slightly too much. I really did like the fact that earlier this week, or last week, I guess, the penalty kick, Brandon Vasquez gave it to Bukhari to kind of get that confidence up. And that game, I think he looked significantly better in. And I think he's looked better a lot more recently. Funnily enough, it was after they had that potential transfer rumor back to Red Star Belgrade, or the fact that, I can't remember, I think it was Red Star Belgrade had publicly stated that they were trying to make him, or he was their top transfer target before the Club World Cup or something like that. I'm curious to see if that's kind of stuck in his head. I know I saw something that said, oh no, I'm not focused on transferring out of this club or wherever I could go next. Right now, I'm focused fully in Austin, fully with Austin FC, whatever. I mean, I don't know if that's true or if that's just media talk. I don't really care either way, as long as he puts in full effort in Austin wearing the shirt that we all support. I mean, really, I couldn't care less if he's playing better to get a better transfer away, or if he's just playing better because he's playing better. Like, the end result's the same, pretty much. Moving out of the front 3. And this is where I get a little bit more harsh. A lot of I'm going to talk about 4 players here. The first one, I'm going to be harsh on the first one. And the first one is Nico Dubrsarski. I have not seen anything from him. I haven't seen anything from him that causes me to think that he should get minutes with the first team besides the minutes that like CJ gets. The last 5-10 minutes of a game to run out, fresh legs to not concede a goal effectively. I don't know. Is that me just being harsh? Is there any truth to that? I just don't think that he's good enough right now. And that's nothing on him personally, but just right now, I think he needs, and it might just be the fact that he hasn't been getting minutes recently at all, and he needs minutes to get up to match pace and to be better. But like this past week, when he played a majority of the game, I think he ended the game with like a 7 rating, a 7 match rating. I don't think I saw him touch the ball once. Sorry. But he, out of the new signings in midfield, he's been my least favorite. And that's including Robert Taylor, who I saw for like 16 minutes or something. I like Robert Taylor more than I like Nico Dubasarski. And Robert Taylor's not really even a midfielder. Whatever. The next one, I guess we'll just briefly touch on Robert Taylor because there really hasn't been much. As of right now, as of recording this video, he is no longer on the injury list, which is great. Hopefully we get to see him this upcoming week against Salt Lake. I think Real Salt Lake is who we play next. I don't know. Not off the top of my head. To be honest, I haven't seen enough of him to make a firm decision on whether I think he's a good addition, a bad addition. I think just objectively and just overarching, I think that his knowledge is great. And I know what he did with Inter Miami last year was good. I know that he does have technical ability, and he puts in the effort that I think Izuni does as well. I just don't know how well that's going to mesh with what Austin FC has and what Austin FC is trying to do. I mean, like I said, I think we got 16 minutes of him playing for Austin. I don't know. Sabovic, I'm just going to quickly go through. I think he's been fine. I think he's made some errors. I think has a couple of really good games, really good games, really good decision making. He's been fine. He's been solid, and I think that's a very good thing with Austin FC and having a solid player. Another solid player who I think is solid, a better form of a solid player, is Ilie Sanchez. He's been that rock in the midfield, especially with Danny being hurt and struggling with that. Again, one of my biggest issues with Ilie is the fact that he does not have the consistency to run every 90 minutes, every couple of days, like Austin has to do in this stretch. But I think it's fine because Austin does have that ability to kind of jigsaw some other pieces in there. And then also now, I believe with Danny back and like the injury list coming back and being empty, and maybe that kind of forcing some new formation changes, maybe the 5-3 back, which I absolutely hate, but whatever. That's another thing with Nico. After last game, he said that he went into it wanting to win against Minnesota, wanting to win, wanting to put an effort on. You went in with 7 effective defensive, 6.5 defensive players. How in the world is that going into the game trying to win? A back 5 with Sabovic and Nico Dubasarski. We'll say those two both count as half a player. So we'll go in with 6 defensive players and just sit back and control and absorb pressure. How in the world is that trying to win a game? Ilie Sanchez, I think he's been great for Austin. Like, without a question. I think he's been very, very strong. Very good with that Danny being hurt and kind of filling in that role. And I think that those two are going to be kind of rotated throughout the rest of the season. Moving on to the existing players, I guess we'll call this section. And that's just players that have been with Austin for like a year now, we'll say. Is last summer, some of the guys that actually got significant minutes at the end of last season and then so far this season. And then players that have been here before that. Starting of which we're going to talk about a guy that's been here since day one, Brad Stuver. To the small minority, there it is, that think that he should be benched and that Stephen Cleveland should start. There's the door. Go. No. Wrong. Go sit outside, think about your actions, and then come back when we have a conversation about how Brad Stuver saved Austin's ass way more times than he's cost it. Stop it. Stop it. He's the reason why Austin FC yes, Seba in 2022 and a little bit in 2023, why Austin was so dominant on that is because there was a brick wall in the back. Yes, part of that brick wall was made of Ruben Gabrielson. I get it. But Brad Stuver really was that wall. And the fact that he has not gotten an all-star vote, disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful by this league. Not the most disgraceful thing this league does. We'll move on. The center back position. The three of them. Four of them with Riley Thomas. I'm just going to be blatant. I don't know much about Riley Thomas. Cool. Next. The three center backs that actually get minutes. Brendan Hines, Svatok, Julio. I like Julio. Julio's a great guy. I met him 2022, 23, 22, 22, 2022 up here in Portland after that game. Great guy. Super happy. Just always on the positive things. I was at the game that he got hurt up here in Portland yet again this season. That was sad to see. But I'm glad that he's recovered. I'm glad that that Austin now has some depth to that center back role that I feel like Austin is always struggling with. But I think that just blatantly, Brendan Hines and Svatok are the better two center backs. I think they complement each other a lot more than Julio complements one of the other two, right? So that pairing has a better coverage of the center back position as a whole than Julio with either one of them. On this, I have some bullet points of just kind of what I wanted to touch on, but a lot of this is just kind of off the dome. I'm gonna skip over this next person. Go to Owen Wolf, which I think has proven that Austin FC could have taken two directions. They could have stayed with Josh and let Owen go, which I think would have been horrendous. But I think it would be good for Owen's career. It would have been bad for Austin, but good for Owen's career. Or let go of Josh and keep Owen. And that's the trajectory that Austin took. That was by far both the best decision for Austin and for Owen Wolf. He had a fantastic start to the season. The first 10 games of the season, great from Owen. He had the technical ability. He could break past players. He can do all these great things. But something after that, around that 10th game of the season, was it the Vancouver game? It might have been the Vancouver game. Just beat him senseless. And since then, he's just looked afraid. He's looked timid. He's looked hesitant to make the same type of either skill moves or whatever, or passes or runs or whatever that he did to start the year. And I really, really hope that he finds that again. Maybe in US Open Cup, maybe in Leagues Cup. Care about Leagues Cup or whatever. Maybe in these other decisions that he can get that X factor back, get that oomph, the oomph, get that back. The last player on here before we touch on the one I skipped over, John Gallagher. Yeah, we'll just move on. I mean, is there really anything to say about John Gallagher? The guy's been great. The Irishman in the back has been solid yet again filling in roles that he is not a natural player in. Great job, John. We'll move on. Kind of another player that has been great and that I really, really like watching is Guilherme Biro. The absolute shithouse of a player he is. It's wonderful. It's great. If Austin FC could have 10 players of one guy and then Brad Stuver and net, I'd want 10 Guilherme Biros. Straight up. The drive, the effort, the want is great. It's hilarious. And then also just the shithousery that he can do. The slight time wasting, the slight just chirps, the things that you see on the field that don't get talked about with the media coverage at all. It's great. I mean, the Guilherme Biro picture that I see in my head is him cocked. I mean, I think we'll all see it. Cocked back, ready to punch the Galaxy player at the end of last year. Perfect. Also, not a penalty. That's not a penalty? What in the world? Not a foul. He didn't touch the pig from LA. He doesn't touch you. He doesn't hurt you. Get up and walk it off. Guilherme Biro, great. Might have been the best player per money, player per dollar that Austin spent. Not just talent-wise, but just overall player. Moving on to the final section, the what do I think nobody that watches the games in a bedroom 2,500 miles away. what do I think Austin needs to change to not be ninth place in the West and not be 20th overall in the Supporter Shield? The build-up and the non-long balls. Austin FC's current ideology is either pass the ball from defense to midfield, midfielder to attack on one of the wings, right? One of the sides, or just boot one over the top. Just miss the midfield entirely. Just kick one from the center back to the wingers to Vasquez to somebody making a run. That's all Austin's doing now. It's either horseshoe of sadness or over the top. Which over the top's not bad, but it's just when Svatok is lining one up to boot one that you can see that he's gonna boot one, then you can just sit back. Just sit back and watch it. You don't have to actually. The midfield causes no stress. I don't understand. The next thing, finishing. They can't finish anything. They can't see the end of an attacking possession. And I don't know why. Because all of the videos from training that Austin's shown over the past 6 years, I know it's not, but it's like 5.5 years, yeah. Because it was even prior to the first game. It was prior to the first season. It's just when Austin FC was still signing those first players and the first couple of training sessions and all that kind of stuff. They always show these finishing drills. Where are the results? Where does that transition to gameplay? I still haven't seen it. I posed this again a couple of days ago in the We Are Austin TV Twitter space. And it's something I'm going to ask you guys about again. Do you think, and would the price that we spent on this player, on Mirto Ozuni, be overlooked, I guess, or you're okay with Austin spending this much money if he turned into the new Diego Fagundes? What I mean by that is, if Mirto Ozuni finished the season with 5 goals, right? So he doesn't score that many more goals. I think he scores 4 more goals in the MLS. But he finishes the year with 15 assists or something like that. Diego Fagundes in 2022, in that Western Conference final run, I think finished the year with 6 goals and 13 assists, something like that, with 19 goal contributions. If Mirto Ozuni could do that same thing of have 16, 17, 18 goal contributions, but a majority of them, if not all of them, are assists because he's kind of dropped back into that midfield role and been that facilitator, would that be good? Or does Mirto Ozuni have to be the end result? Does he have to be the goal scorer? Personally, I'd be okay with that. I'm fine with him setting up chances that still result in Austin goals. I don't really care who finishes them. I mean, I'd like it to be the forwards, obviously, because that means that it's working. But realistically, if you can set up assists, I think it's fine. So I'm curious to know if you would be okay with Ozuni kind of dropping back and not being the goal scorer, but being that facilitator, being that number 10 in the midfield to distribute the balls, to distribute the assists. Now moving on to the last thing, which is the transfer window coming up this summer. It's going to be interesting because I think the MLS is technically, I don't know how close they are, technically doing 2, maybe. I think they're doing 1 for the Club World Cup because of the 3 teams, 2 teams that are in it, 1 team that's possibly in it, I think is what it is. But because of the Club World Cup, and I know Europe's doing the same thing, is they're adding a summer transfer window just specifically because of the Club World Cup. And then also just the regular summer transfer window. What should Austin bring in? Personally, I don't really know who's available right now in the overarching player pool of availabilities this summer. I know the big one that everybody was talking about that actually was leaked by Eric Goodman was Kevin De Bruyne approaching Austin. Cool. I mean, I don't necessarily know if somebody that caliber, I mean, clearly that somebody that caliber would help, but I don't know in the long run if that would be good for the club. Be a ton of money. We'd have to get rid of one of the DPs. I don't know if somebody of that top caliber. I mean, same kind of, I guess, kind of goes for Thomas Muller. I know I don't know if he's retiring or if he's just leaving Bayern. I think he's just leaving Bayern. But I don't know if somebody of that caliber would be the target guy for Austin this summer. If it is to shop around a DP to open up one of those spaces to get somebody like that, or if it's just going to be kind of lower tier roster fills, skilled players, creative players that can kind of fill the last couple roster spots. And maybe if Austin gets rid of somebody that's on the roster right now that doesn't need to be there, or doesn't need to be there is harsh, but doesn't get minutes or anything like that. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Who would be your, like, if Austin FC signed this player, you're super happy about it. And don't not Kevin De Bruyne, who I think is going to Napoli now for 3 years. Not Kevin De Bruyne, not Thomas Muller, not Mbappe, or not the like top notch, but like somebody solid that's reasonable. I know Gio Reyna's looking for a club. Don't want to get the Reyna family back involved in Austin, but Gio Reyna did train in Austin when he was injured a couple years ago. There is a connection there. I don't know. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know. Hit that like button if you want to see more Austin FC content on the channel. Let me know your thoughts on Austin FC's 2025 season, because I genuinely, even after doing the research, even after looking at it, even after compiling all this stuff and writing what I think needs to change, I genuinely don't know what. I don't know. Yeah. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Take care, and I'll see you later. Peace.